Conversations, your portal to the inner realms. Access infinite possibilities, infinite mastery, and infinite love. Mind-expanding, heart-opening conversations with some of the greatest spiritual teachers, luminaries, and healers of today's world. Usher in new earth by living in your sacred heart. Quantum Conversations is brought to you by AcousticHealth.com, home of music from the universe, online healing retreats, and this program. Claim your free registration to daily shows at AcousticHealth.com. AcousticHealth.com, your portal to the inner realms. Our program starts shortly. Welcome to another Quantum Conversation, brought to you by AcousticHealth.com. I'm Loren Gailey, and I invite you to sit back as we enter the quantum realm, that space of the greater part of you. It is your connection to infinite possibilities, infinite potential, and infinite mastery. Oh, and welcome everyone. Happy 2021. We are beginning a new season of Quantum Conversations here, and we are so excited to have you here in this beautiful space with us. This is our broadcast of love. Today, we are talking about portals within us and soul bridging and really multidimensional embodiment. We are in a beautiful time on our planet Earth. My guest today is here to share her story and how she is a channel and an oracle of higher dimensional consciousness. And also she is an activation portal and a gatekeeper. Kate Alexandra is here to share her story and to empower all of us with her message. Kate, welcome to Quantum Conversations. Thank you so much for being here. Hello. All right, Kate is joining us from Costa Rica. We don't have you, Kate. Maybe try again. This is a beautiful story. Here we go. Hi, Kate. Try now.
Hi, Lauren. Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and present. Thank you.
Oh, brilliant.
Welcome. Okay, so... All right, I hope we have a stable line here. Kate, please share with us, please, your story of awakening. How did you understand what was going on? You were contacted by a higher consciousness actually just a few years ago. So this is in addition to your awakening. Share with us your story, please.
Sure. Where to begin? Well, I suppose ever since I was young, I was aware of what we could say oneness. I was aware of a consciousness that spanned across many different individuals. And I suppose for years, it felt incredibly ungrounding. As a child, I had not very much to ground that into. I had no context to place it in. That as I grew up, I started to become aware of my spiritual self, I suppose. And it's been quite a rapid journey, I would say, since kind of 2016, 2017 is when I really was able, what I would say, to ground this awareness. And through that grounding, it kind of stabilized the awareness, and I was able to really fine tune my channel and embrace it as a gift. Whereas before I would say it was something that I very strongly resisted. And as I started to explore my cosmic self, and that's kind of where I began. I began really guided to explore kind of the cosmic realm. It's always where my interest has been rooted and anchored in. And I became aware of what I call the unity consciousness of Lyra. So I would never be contacted by an individual being. And this is really a key realization. I suppose it's an anchor point on the path for me to be where I am and offering the service that I have developed. And taught how unity consciousness works, what it feels like, what it looks like. My consciousness is almost able to merge with this collective field. And as I began to explore this more, and I must say it's not something that I, at this point, was necessarily looking for. It kind of came to me. And from that awareness, and it took me a few years, I would say, to really begin to understand what it was that I was being shown, and that I wasn't absolutely losing my mind, which I'm sure many people could resonate with. And so it was, I think, 2018 to 2019, which were very, very important. It was an important period of my awakening, because I began to receive more detailed guidance. So it was in 2018 that I was told through my own meditation practice that I was to come over to Costa Rica, where I am now. And I actually had a trip booked back in 2018, but through multiple communications, through multiple different meditations, I was told now is not the time. I actually had plans and tickets booked, and I think it was 3 times that I was told it's not the right time now, but you will go over there and you'll be there for a while. You've got work to do over in Costa Rica. And so I always knew something important awaited me, I suppose, here in the sacred land, this very, very powerful activation point. And it's just been so activating for me. It's so beautiful. But anyway, going back, I suppose another key piece of information, and this is really something that I actually have hesitated sharing for various reasons, but I was ultimately contacted by a unity collective, a group of consciousness, and they stepped forth. And it wasn't so much a two-way interaction, actually. It was more just they were delivering me a message. And the message was that I would be developing a new form of regression, a new regression technique. And despite this consciousness being a collective, it was a unified collective, it was made aware to me that this was a unity collective that was very much connected with the oversoul of Dolores Cannon. And it was surprising for me, because actually that's the only earth kind of earth side, kind of individual, I suppose, that I have received communication from. As I said before, my whole awakening journey was really anchored and rooted in oneness. Really, it's almost been, that I can connect with entire kind of galactic groups. So this really stood out to me. And I obviously knew Dolores, and at the time I was doing regression myself. I was actually receiving hypnotherapy and regression myself. And definitely Dolores's work stood out to me. It felt exciting. And then a couple of years went by, I suppose, and I've just been doing a lot of work kind of behind the scenes, I suppose. I've been kind of cultivating my own channel. I've really understood the importance and I suppose the responsibility of clearing my channel from distortions. I'm often told the importance of purity as a channel. So I took that on board and really have been quite a hermit for the last couple of years, really, until I took the leap to come to Costa Rica. And I mentioned Costa Rica because it's played such a big role. It really has. And one day last year, so this is 2020, I just woke up one day and I knew that was the day I had to book my flight over here. And it's been an amazing process ever since. After that, I think I discovered that actually my astrocartography. So for those who don't know what astrocartography is, it's where the planetary lines, the planetary placements are kind of overlaid this planet. So you can almost trace where your sun, your moon, your Pluto, all of the planetary lines are. And so you begin to understand various locations. Anyway, if you're not familiar, I really recommend researching your astrocartography. It's very interesting. It's also interesting because I was actually living on my Saturn line, which is said to be quite a difficult energy back in the UK. But it was perfect. It was the perfect energy for me to kind of do my shadow work, to do that inner processing that I did intensely for, I would say, 2-3 years. But it turned out that Costa Rica is actually, I've got 2 of my lines here. I'm on my Chiron and my Uranus, which speak of birthing new healing modalities and breaking conformities in terms of community, family, home. So I'm playing with that as well over here. There's lots of exciting things being birthed in terms of both healing and community over here. And so I arrived in Costa Rica not so long ago. And it was literally, I think, the first week or the second week that I was here. It was a very interesting day. The Wi-Fi in the kind of jungle region where I was cut out for the whole day, which isn't
It's pretty
so
typical,
rare.
right?
It's pretty typical. I suppose it's pretty typical, but it just so happened to coincide that day was the day that I had this energy come through me. Very, very intense energy. I think probably the most I've ever experienced. I remember having to kind of pace around, not knowing really how to process and ground this frequency that was surging through my vessel. And I just knew I had to sit down and write. And this is really where I channeled through what I call the quantum formula. So I would say it was the first 2 years where I received, the message that I would be birthing this new organic technology. And I'll explain a little bit more why I call it that. But this day, when the Wi-Fi cut out, it meant that I had to cancel my client sessions, and I was able just to channel what needed to be channeled through, and it was some sort of quantum formula. It felt like I was writing the instructions of a quantum board game. I describe it as, and it was really one of the most profound days I've ever experienced, to be honest. Thinking back on it now, and it's been an amazing journey ever since. I've kind of been cultivating it. I kind of did a soft launch to my kind of Instagram community, and now this year I know that I'll be kind of launching it in a more public way. So that's kind of what led me up to this point. But I should mention as well that a key narrative, I suppose, or a key theme of my own awakening journey, beyond this connection to the unity consciousness, is portal work. And I've been very much working with the grid working, not so much necessarily in a conscious way. I always kind of find myself in situations where I'm just made aware that that is what I'm doing, just by kind of being in that land, if that makes sense, which I'm sure a lot of the grid workers can relate to. But I've been working a lot with portals, and this is a really key part of the quantum bridging. And I don't know if I mentioned that, but this quantum formula, this regression technique is called quantum bridging. QBHD, I was given these words, quantum bridging by holographic design, and I'll explain a little bit more about that. But one of the fundamental kind of principles of this technique is the exploration of the human vessel as a portal system. And so it is a bridge in itself. The key word is bridging. It opens up what was described to me as the neural pathway network of the human self, but also the multiple layers of the energy body. So it's kind of from micro to macro. And we access this neural pathway network. It's an energetic network that runs through from the human self out across the multidimensional self. So it's from the micro kind of subconscious self to the macro superconsciousness. We're very much working directly with the DNA and the superconsciousness. And really, it's working with stargates. It's working with portals. And understanding that the human body in itself is a system. It's a network. And when it's activated, we can access these stargates. And now the basis of this is really to access that unity consciousness, because that is really where we're at right now in the spiritual evolution of humanity. We are at this very exciting junction where, we're beginning to feel a little bit telepathic. Time is it feels like a time warp right now. Everything's kind of speeding up exponentially. And we have this energy now here anchored within us, within our bodies and within this planet, which is allowing and enabling these organic stargates to reactivate. And so many of us are here acting as gatekeepers, holding specific keys and codes within our own DNA that enable us to hold space. I often use the word birthing canal. Kind of together we're holding somewhat of a birthing canal. And ultimately, we are the bridges. We are each other's bridges. And it's beautiful. It's so beautiful. Everything, it's all encompassing, this whole modality, everything that's led me to this point has been about this principle that we are one. We are unity consciousness. We are the bridges for each other to walk across. And so every session is so amazingly profound, because ultimately what we're doing is we're traversing through this network, through this neural pathway network, which I sometimes vision it to be like an underground tunnel network. And imagine this is an ancient tunnel system that's been long forgotten. It's been perhaps shut down, or the entrance has been hidden or blocked. And what we're doing is we're walking through this system. And as we walk, we're putting in posts, we're putting in beacons of light that illuminate the way for the collective, for others to journey. And it's so beautiful. It's such a beautiful process, and it really is a service. It's a great service that everybody who chooses to journey with this technique is really offering to the whole, to the unified consciousness. And it's really helping people to remember the bridges, to reawaken the bridges that can help them connect to unity consciousness. And there's an importance with this now, because I think we're beginning to feel this next stage of evolution, right? Everybody's kind of feeling this heightened sensitivity. Everybody's feeling, tapping into some sort of telepathy. And through my own journey, what I was shown through being able to kind of the unique consciousness of Lyra, past, present, and future. So this spans across all time and all dimensions, the unity consciousness of Lyra. And what I was shown is that we have a responsibility as each unique facet, each unique piece of the whole, because ultimately if we're carrying distorted energy, if we're carrying fear, more and more the collective is going to feel that. It's like dropping a drop of poison into a pure lake. And that poison can kind of spread, it can kind of ripple around, and it can create chaos, it can create havoc energetically. And I think it's interesting because we're kind of feeling that now with everything that's going on right now. There's so much fear, and it really is heightened because we're all becoming a little bit more sensitive. We're ascending into this state of unity consciousness. And so this quantum bridging is helping us to remember, I suppose, the principles, the understanding, the comprehension of what unity consciousness actually is. Because I think the reality of it is actually quite different from what a lot of people think it is.
Yes, that is very interesting. And astrologically, we've just moved through the December solstice, and Earth herself is anchored fully in the Aquarian age and unity consciousness. So we are truly here in it. Now, we have a responsibility, you say, to really feel into this. When we're looking at unity consciousness and it's different than what we think, and you've seen and felt and saw what unity consciousness of Lyra looks like. Share with us what it is that you saw.
Absolutely. I'll try my best. I'll try my best to translate this.
Because it's something you couldn't put words to, right? You couldn't put words to it. And it's, wow. Is it on a social level? I mean, we'll talk about this even more. When we see the fear that's out there, it's a sensitivity to the oneness. So do you think that this means caring for others in all new ways, being aware of other people?
Absolutely. There's so much to this. And I can do my best to describe it. First of all, I will say that we've entered into this new era, and we're beginning to feel this unity consciousness. That what I've been shown is it's going to be exponentially increasing. Rapid it's a constant hum, a constant vibration, and so the repercussions and the reverberations of the echoes of our emotional bodies, of our energy that we're carrying is going to become even more kind of sped up. And so really the responsibility is first to look after of individuals. And that leads me on into, I guess, a little bit of an explanation of what we're showing unity collective consciousness of Lyra over many different kind of experiences. But it's important to know that within the unified consciousness, there's some sort of there's still some sort of fractalization. So there are still, individuals. We still are individuals. We remain that. It's just like, imagine that we become a root system. So it's like we're constantly connected. It's like the veins that run through our bodies, the neural pathways that run through our bodies start to expand and join and connect to all of those around us. And so, yes, absolutely. Part of it is looking after our brothers and sisters. But to do that, to look after everybody else, we have to come into alignment, truth and integrity with our own being, with our own soul. And so that's kind of what quantum bridging is, I suppose. It is the bridge to help us remember this unity consciousness so that we can, by remembering it, right, we're shining a light upon it, we're illuminating it, just like we do with shadow work. It's like once we've seen it, it's integrated into us. We're bringing it home. We're bringing home and anchoring that remembering. And through that, I suppose, I think people will, step up in their responsibility and their realization of how impactful their frequency really truly is. And another part of this beautiful puzzle that I was shown with Lyra is really, and I'll do my best to explain this, it's really that we are the cosmos embodied. So incarnated into these human vessels, into these human vehicles, by awakening our own inner stargates, we are bridging that connection to these cosmic realms, to these unified fields. They are working with us at all times. And what I was shown, and this is very interesting, I've been shown through my own body, and also I'm beginning to be shown through my clients more and more now, which is just simply blowing my mind with every session now. They're just becoming more and more profound and validating and confirming. And And really it's that our bodies, our human bodies, the physical, mental, emotional, all the layers of our bodies have impacts on these wider collective unified fields of consciousness that are existing in other dimensions, higher dimensions. And so, for instance, a heartbeat that is responding to fear, the frequency of fear, can ripple out into these unified fields. And how I was shown is that this fear frequency can kind of reverberate. I love that word because it's so perfect when describing unity consciousness. Reverberation, instantaneous reverberation. And that fear frequency, it can kind of ripple through and create kind of chaos, to be honest. But on the other hand, it can be incredibly, incredibly blissful, incredibly playful. And there's so much joy and so much sharing of creative energy that can happen when we are in a state of balance, of inner integrity and inner peace. So I've kind of been shown kind of both of the sides, of this unified field and the responsibility that we have in terms of our energy that we carry. So I would say, yes, fundamentally doing the work, doing the work, the inner work, and then allowing others to see that, to feel that, and to be inspired. And that is the assistance.
Yes, that is the assistance to really be aware of where our energy's going. It's really interesting because you're right, there is fear in a number of ways. And yet, if we can stay aware of that energy and balanced, we've heard from so many people who say it really does affect it all. How would you suggest that? Two questions for you, Kate. First, getting rid of any fear. Anytime, we can feel, it's interesting that you said it reverberates through that collective consciousness, and we can feel it. What would you say for people to do in an instant with fear? How to transmute that instantly?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, in the moment, in an instant, it's very simple. As I'm sure many healers will say, but it's simply coming back to the heart. And you can even visualize yourself coming into the heart and feeling the energy of peace coming through the feet, from the earth, connecting to the frequency of nature, and just remembering to kind of ground into that heart-based frequency. Now, how we can work with this on a longer kind of time frame is really, and this is kind of another key to the quantum bridging technique, and I would recommend any type of regression technique that can help you gain a higher perspective, because the first thing that I channeled actually with the quantum bridging was, this is beyond individual stories. It is beyond individual stories, and so, not getting wrapped up in that fear on that individual level, not getting distracted on that individual level. And regression, it can bring this beautiful higher perspective that can ultimately connect us to those higher places. And really that opens this gateway. It opens a gateway of being able to pull ourselves out of those kind of loops, those fear loops. So I would say really through my own journey has been, how can I pull myself out of this individual experience? Well, I've kind of been gifted that, I suppose. But through that perspective shift, I have myself been able to clear distortion and fear within my own being very, very rapidly, because from that higher place, from that higher perspective, or with that higher perspective, things just kind of fall away a little bit easier. And so I really do recommend people to explore regression kind of work in order to gain that, so you have that tool. So when you're kind of getting sucked into the fear programs and within the individual self, you've got this memory. You've got this remembering that you can reference in an instant, and it can instantly draw you out of that.
Thank you. Yes, that is powerful. And you almost started to answer the next question. You most likely did. I love the regression. I do have another question, but I just want to say, when we explore consciousness in this way, there is a connection to the higher self, and this is the inner wisdom. It is profound. Have you noticed from your clients, when someone hears the higher self or has this higher perspective, there is no going backwards. We can hear the higher self. We know this wisdom even faster. That's why you call it quantum, and that's why you call it a bridge.
Absolutely, yeah. That's a great question, and definitely something that I've been incredibly aware of through this work. Exactly. It's once we have that connection, it begins to integrate, and it really is a process of divine embodiment. And that really is where we're at right now. It's like the gateways are open. The gateways are open and ready for us to walk through. And as we walk through them, we're remembering these higher parts of ourselves, and the more kind of explorative journeying that we do, that enables us to kind of formulate these bridges, remember these bridges and anchor them. Ultimately, the higher self merges. So it becomes less of a remembering and more of a embodying. And this is also going to be an incredibly profound experience that we see now, this exponential awakening that's going to ripple around the collective.
Yes, we've been waiting for it. We thought it was going to be here in 2012. We have since come to understand, to understand that it's one heart opening at a time, and we've seen that even with your journey and how you've grown on an exponential level. And so when we're talking, I mean, it's going to be amazing when you say that this is only going to speed up. It's almost, before we go to my question about how we awaken our inner stargates, I want to ask you about this speeding up of this time, because it seems as if all the light workers listening to this program and programs like this, we are certainly preparing to assist others. I've heard this so much recently. This is who we've been waiting for. We've been waiting for this recognition of our own beingness, that we create our reality. And what you're saying is that, wow, this is, there could be a point where, this is why we're saying, all light workers, say your voice now, your voice of love, the divine voice, because if it gets so crazy where people have to come to a choice point of, I'm just so tired of the fear, it's going to be fear or joy. And that's what you're talking about with the doorway, the gateway to so much more. If we're locked in that looping cycle of fear, we can't have it. But if we are able to walk through it, it doesn't mean that we're reckless. We're still prudent, but we're managing this fear within us and choosing another way. Would you see that hopefully the masses simply almost like surrender in a way, just like, okay, I give up. I'm so tired of that. I surrender to greatness of love.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we can all resonate, when you become so exhausted from the same thing. And you realize, something's got to give, something's got to shift. And I believe people will get to that point where they are kind of, I suppose, forced just through their own exhaustion to open their eyes, open their consciousness, and feel into alternative options and alternative pathways that are ultimately going to lead them to the journey of healing and restoration, and then soul integration and embodiment. Absolutely.
Yeah. That's why so many have these visions of spaces for people to come and decompress from that world. And that's why we're all working so diligently to get our messages out and to really not only do the work for ourselves, immaculate with our energy, but so that we can help others as well. So thank you. Fascinating work. We're going to learn more about your personal sessions that you offer and maybe talk about how it has helped people see from different perspectives. Let's talk first about what you mentioned about we are awakening our inner stargates. How do we awaken our inner stargates?
Yeah, well, this is a fantastic question, and I'm learning more and more about this as my own inner stargates awaken, I suppose. Ultimately, through this new energy, it's allowing those stargates that perhaps were dormant. It's supporting them to open, and ultimately, it's through the releasing of the denser, heavier emotions. There is really no shortcut to this. We have to, do that inner work, do that inner healing, acknowledge our inner shadows, our inner density, because these stargates, these organic stargates, they resonate and they activate with when we're holding the light within us. They need a certain amount of light that has activated with the DNA. So they're very, very much working with the DNA to open and expand. And really the best way I can suggest is absolutely start to go within and start to open up to these newer organic technologies that are being brought through, that are ultimately being channeled through many of us now. And it's beautiful. It's all connected. It's like through those of us who are going through these Stargate activations through our own kind of natural process, we're ultimately sharing those codes. We're allowing that kind of gateway to be opened for the collective. So the more of us that open our own inner stargates, we are able to energetically hold space and guide and activate others, really. But the organic technologies, for instance, the Quantum Bridging by Holographic Design, and many others now are bringing forth these healing modalities, these organic technologies that are ultimately here to witness. And I can only speak from my opinion and my own journey and my own technique that I brought through, but really it's all about working with the consciousness, working with expanding that consciousness, and really understanding that consciousness itself is the thing that journeys through those inner stargates. And so it's so beautifully, beautifully connected.
Yes, expanding our consciousness and bringing in more light, seeing everything from that higher perspective, even regressing and becoming whole within ourselves, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, you know, it's really coming into wholeness. You know, I think we've touched on it, but really what I always say is remembering the higher self or the higher perspective, or expanding, opening our awareness is really the master key of liberation. It's about freeing ourselves from those old limitations, those old programs, those mental loops, and looking for the keys, the master keys. And really what I've been told is these new organic technologies that are being channeled through specifically for this new era, and that is a key as well. We're going to see, you know, many of the healing modalities become expanded, because ultimately we're experiencing new frequencies, and these new frequencies can be worked with in different ways than we've been previously working with them. So really just becoming open and asking your own self for guidance on which of these organic technologies would best suit you and would be most appropriate with your own unique awakening journey.
Yes, and so when you do your sessions, quantum bridging by Holographic Design, this is the technique that you've channeled, and you're sensing it's overlighted by Dolores Cannon, the famous Dolores Cannon in our community, needs little introduction. We've heard that as well, and she is working with many healers to advance her teachings. And so here you have expanded on it. When you've worked with your clients, what is some of the byproduct that you've seen as a result of clients going through such transformational sessions like this?
Oh, yes, absolutely. So it really varies. I mean, everybody's journey is so unique, and just like many of the regression techniques, it will meet you where you're at. It will bring you and deliver you what you need. And so it can really target many different things, from mental patterns that are quite debilitating. It can bring liberation and expansiveness. It can really bring through, ultimately it's bringing through this remembering of what is beyond our current remembering of the soul integration. It's connected to the monadic consciousness. So we're really connecting to what I call the core fractal consciousness. So I always say we have many kind of layers to what some people call the higher self, the source self. And really it's mainly bridging that. So fundamentally what it's doing is it's bringing this deep peace through the integration, because what we're doing is we're coming home to ourselves. We're opening pathways, as I mentioned before, these neural pathways that run through the different layers, right through to the monadic planes. And so that frequency, that remembering, that level of the higher soul consciousness, it feels like home. And that's really how I can describe it. It feels like coming home. Like many will be able to resonate with when we're able to access and remember certain levels of our own soul aspects. It really brings this beautiful sense of peace, because with that, it's like this permission to be who we truly are, beyond the stories, beyond the distractions. The quantum bridging really cuts out a lot of the stories, so it's not so much about kind of journey into these quote unquote past parallel experiences. It's really cutting to the core frequency. We're really accessing what I call the landscape of the superconscious soul. It's the monadic part of us. It's the part of us that is our purest frequency, ultimately. And through that remembering and bridging, first of all, it's working directly with the DNA and the energy body to awaken those stargates, to awaken and activate those strands. But secondly, it's coming home to the self. And that's really the best way I can describe it. But ultimately, it's a beautiful range, and really it can offer and deliver healing if that's needed.
Right.
It tends to be on more of a expansive level. And what I can share with you, and I'm going to be sharing, I'm going to begin to transcribe some of the sessions. I'm going to begin to share them because it's really profound. And what we're really seeing is how the physical vessel is in a quantum level holding space or connected to these higher planes and higher dimensions. And so when people receive the healing through into their human vessel, what we're showing is we're showing the impact, what that is bringing to their unity consciousness that is existing beyond this dimension, if that makes sense. So it's really quantum, and it's very much grounded and anchored, as I said before, in this unified unity perspective.
Yes, where we are moving. So as we experience these sessions, when you are able to see how the physical vessel holds the space and connects to the higher dimensions, and how our energy impacts that with fear, that knowingness within is very transformational. There is a no-nonsense, I like to call it no-nonsense connection to the higher self, and that's what you mean by no more stories. It does allow us to step out of the story when we truly know that we have this connection, this multidimensional connection, and our ability to move with the energies, to dismiss certain energies, not to have a part of it anymore, and knowing the impact that that has, that is really transformational. And again, it's one by one. It's not us and thinking everyone's going to have the same experience, but it's for what each individual brings in that moment, and your connection to their soul. You're helping facilitate not only the old, I don't want to say old, but the dormant stargates, or the connection that was cut off. And when that is made within a person, There is no more stories in the outside. You know, we were saying earlier, how do you get rid of the fear? This is how you get rid of the fear, this connection where you know it's you. And this is a very, very powerful tool. You know, there's tools that will help us. Meditation is certainly one way. But with processes like this, share a little bit more about your process, because you do these remote, and it's a way, thank goodness for this technology that absolutely allows us to meet across great distances, but it's really a safe space. And for those who might be apprehensive of doing this, share a little bit how it's totally safe and it's always for the highest good.
Absolutely. Well, I suppose the foundation of this work, these new organic technologies that are ultimately being gifted, it's like the formulas are being handed over to those who hold a purity of intention that align with the organic consciousness of the archetype. The divine mother archetype is something that I'm very deeply connected to. So there's a beautiful sense of being held by this beautiful divine mother. Ultimately, the technique, before we go into it, we spend about an hour speaking, first of all, getting to know each other, and then I do a process that kind of eases the client into this process. And it's very much, thank you for asking that, because it's a beautiful question and very relevant, but it ultimately eases the client into this place where they are held and supported and guided throughout. And ultimately, you know, this is my role and many other people's roles who are going to be bringing these techniques through. And ultimately, we are divine space holders. So I hold space. It's just like everything we've spoken about. Ultimately, it's like my human is holding the space for my client's human. But in a higher level, I am also holding cosmic space. And that is, it's really fundamentally about the purity of that field. And that really has been shared with me. And this is something that I share with each client as well. So that they feel very safe and they feel very held. And they can just relax into that process of surrender ultimately.
Yes, and so share a little bit, because it's different for everyone. When there's a regression, does it go to past lives? We're bringing in even galactic lives, right? And it's each of us individually in our own consciousness. It's the higher self giving us the information. Share a little bit more about that sort of the journey in where it could go in each of your sessions. And I think we've lost Kate. Okay, there, you're back. There was a little wobble there.
Oh,
we have you now. Yes.
Yeah, so another great question, and really, it really is guided, as you said, by the higher self aspect of each client. Now, we spend time at the beginning discussing what they feel they need assistance on, or maybe clarity or guidance. But ultimately, the higher self will always bring through what is most relevant. And this is key. Every session is going to be so different. Even if the same person comes back for multiple sessions, it's going to be different, because each time And with each different person, ultimately it's going to be the specific consciousness that is awaiting and ready to be integrated at that point. And so this can really vary from person to person depending on their journey and their process and where they're at with their awakening and activation. We can journey through the different dimensional layers of the unity consciousness. So really it looks very different for different people, but it will always be based in empowerment. It will always be based in that homecoming, bringing the pieces that are most appropriate to that individual's journey and what they can really integrate now that's going to assist them in aligning with their unique purpose and their highest and optimum life path ultimately. So I'm here as a guide and a facilitator, and it helps very easily to that higher aspect, and we work very much together to kind of guide into the places which are needed at that moment.
Yes, thank you. So you have a session available for those who are enjoying this and feel inspired to have a session. It is a lengthy session. It is one where you go deep and allow yourself time, and we invite our participants to check that out. Talk a little bit about your special offer for everyone, please.
Absolutely. So at the moment, I'm offering the Quantum Bridging by Holographic Design, and it's about a 3 to 4 hour session. And at the moment, we're offering a 30% off. So I think people book up through your website, Lauren, is that right? And we can schedule it for a time to suit as well. So you can totally book up now, and if you feel like you maybe need a month or something before actually proceeding with the session, that's totally fine.
Yes, beautiful. That is available for each of you to check out. Look at the special offer button that's on this webpage, and you can learn more, and you can ask us any questions as well if you've got those. It is beautiful. Again, this is inner work that we talk about, but again, it is so much more. It is holistic. It is empowerment. It is a homecoming. It is the wholeness of you, and it is galactic. So thank you for that. And there will be some day where you can do something on a group process, but this is really more for individuals at this point. So we really thank you for sharing this technique and your story with all of us.
Thank you so much. It's been a real pleasure. Thank you so much for hosting, Lauren.
Yes, thank you. It is beautiful, and we send you our love, and we thank everyone for being here. And we ask everyone, let's do something fun together. You were saying that the feeling of fear ripples out. So all of us here in our group today, as we hold an intention for peace and balance within ourselves, we hold that for the collective. We hold that for the unified field. So Kate, as we say goodbye today, you've mentioned how important this is. Can you see and share with us something about that, something about how this really is significant, holding this peace and balance for the world?
Yes, absolutely. Well, there's two things that I'm being prompted to share, and that's firstly, the more that we are able to maintain our frequency, the more that we are almost rising up. Imagine there's a reverberation of chaos. It's noisy, it's turbulent, and the more that we are able to stand in our own essence of love and integrity and strength and inner peace, ultimately we're going to almost rise up. And as we rise up, it's almost like we're carving out a channel for those others to follow. So we're all kind of ascending up, floating up above this turbulence, above this chaotic frequency, which we will eventually all leave behind. And so the second thing that I've been prompted to respond with this question is that ultimately remembering that, you know, how turbulent and chaotic that kind of feedback loop of fear is, and then flip it and reverse it and remember and try to feel into what that would feel like in love. So if there was a love ripple weaving its way around, and actually I wish to mention one final thing, and this is something so beautiful that I was shown on the morning of the solstice. So I awakened that morning, and all that week I was getting so many messages about the inner ear and the inner hearing. And I woke up to this cheer. It was a cheer that sounded like a Mexican wave. It was rolling around and around. And it was a cheer of celebration and joy and upliftment. And in my half kind of awakened state, I thought the town here in Costa Rica was all cheering. And then I suddenly realized it was an interdimensional cheer, that it was so beautiful, and it was filled with this golden light frequency, and it was so uplifting and so full of support and unity, and really remembering this and try to really almost meditate on this, try to contemplate that feeling, just allow yourself to imagine it. You know, imagine if there was a love frequency that was reverberating around this planet instead of the fear frequency. And maybe we can spread that and make it happen.
Hallelujah. We all have our hands raised saying yes. Yes, 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 we will do that. That is a powerful reminder for everyone in our choice point of this now moment to reach for love. And again, this is
hello, Laura?
a journey. Oh, yes. Hi. I'm here. Maybe you can't hear me. Oh, well, Kate, thank you. When we reach for love, it is powerful. And there comes a point where the reaching becomes embodiment. And that is beautiful. For your own journey, we invite our listeners to work with Kate Alexandra. If you resonate with a session and it feels like coming home in your heart, this is available. And again, these sessions only accelerate your journey, connect you deeper within yourself. So we invite you to take that journey. We thank you for holding love in your heart and for resonating that out to the community. This is a beautiful time and a transmutation period of all fear. Kate Alexandra, thank you, thank you, thank you for this quantum conversation.
Thank
now,
you, Lauren.
Thank you. I know there's internet issues, and I hope you heard me clearly. We heard you. Thank you again for this beautiful conversation. Bye for now.
Oh, ciao. Sending so much love.
Sending love. Thank you. Again, Kate Alexandra's special offer is available on this webpage. Check it out, and we'll see you soon. It is time now to dance our way to the cosmic heart. Thank you.